Alo, you can begin whenever you're ready.
Sure.
Start.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the PM didn't show us why in what kind of situation what kind of contextualization this situation will happen. It's if they never answer the POI from the closing house. Why, if they want to to help these people as a victim, why they just don't correct the law instead of to do some vigilante justice and to vote for some parties? And so what their point can be stand upon is that the democracy country, but they are in war, so they in the war a lot of crimes happen, and the law it fails, and the people have no help from the government, so they have to choose to kill the criminals themselves. So that even if in their a situation, our opposition will still win. So first, imagine that you are citizen in a a worse country, and you feel unsafety, not just because you may killed by the war, and you may killed by anyone, because the power of your life is not controlled by the government. Instead, it's controlled by some group or some individual. Especially if you are a minority, you feel you are you have and you are discriminated by others, and then you may be more afraid that others will kill you as easily as the like. So first, I will give some principle. Why is it's a principle wrong? And second, and I will give some harms. Why it's going to harm the citizens themselves? And third, especially the minority. And the second is that why it's not good for the law system established after the war, because we want a peace, a more lawful society in the future, and the war will end someday. So it's important for the law system to be established in the future. And first, why it's injustified to do so? Because we say that the punishment and the crimes must be proportional, right? That means if you cut down someone's legs, that doesn't mean you can others will to kill you directly. But this will so the principle of the criminal justice system is to say that's the punishment and crimes must be proportional. But in their case, that's impossible to be proportional. Why? Because the citizens is self-interest course, and they have a very emotional driven. That means and only care about themselves, and they lack of information, so they care about the now instead of the future. They may think, oh, they harm me, so I will kill him or do some more harm on them directly. Even if they say this citizen is very rational, and I'm very rational, but I may kill others accidentally, because no one will have this kind of balance and check on me. And and also it may result to kill somebody, kill the innocent people, because you can kill everyone it's suspected instead of the true criminal, and that will lead to the collapse of the whole criminal justice system. And what is gonna harm the citizen themselves, because the citizen is the actor, so the citizen's interest is most important, right? So first is because in the normal justice, criminal justice, is that we have a process to confirm that your crimes, what level your crimes is, and what kind of punishment you should receive. But in their case, that this process is lacking. That means you can whoever you can kill everyone, and that means the power is not controlled by our government. The punishment won't be checked and balanced by the government, and they will decided by the group of the member accident emotionally. So if we left we lose this safety net, that means you can as a citizen you can kill others, you can harm others easily. That means others can also harm you easily, right? So it's going to harm yourself at the end. And also it's especially harmful for the minority, because the minority is the most suffering and has less power than others, and they are discriminated by, for example, like some minor species in one country, and it means they will others like their others will use an excuse and to kill them and directly, instead of they can protected by the country or the law for system. And the second, why it's important for the law system to establish, because when even if you have war and you may lose some people innocent people, but that means the people the public will shape that opinion. That is it's okay to kill others, it's okay, the power is on my hand, and after a long time they will it's hard for them to change that opinion, and that will make the afterward system establishment very hard, and that will harm them from a long term. So based on us proud to
Can't
oppose.
hear.
Thank you.
Can't hear.
Audible?
Yep. Yeah, you're audible.
Yes, thanks.
Start.
It is extremely strange why OG completely leave out the actor in the debate. It is not about what is the best system for the society right now. It is more like, if I'm the citizen in this particular country, what would I want to vote for myself? What would I think? What is the thought process that I might have in the process of voting for a political party that could subject me to extreme danger if not carried out properly? Let's just engage with OG's case, right? Their mechanism is extremely strange as well. On one hand, they argue that these people are independent, not subjected to the monopoly of the justice, of the power of the current political system that already failed them. On the other hand, they argue that these independent actors are likely to have some kind of accountability and some kind of reasoning that they have to give, which we argue to you there is extremely a reason why judiciary process are extremely long, because you still need to go through the evidence collection as well as a trial process in order to make sure that you are not addressing to the wrong person, you are capturing the right person, you are capturing the right criminal. We think all this process was neglected under their side. They are extremely idealistic in saying that, oh, this accountability could miraculously happen because these individuals are highly independent and as well as are highly disciplined to do so. We don't think that is likely to be true. We argue to you, how does this group of vigilante justice people actually look like? They are likely to be a group of people who already have some kind of influence in the community. For example, they could be mafia group. For example, they could be people from, for example, a certain feminist group as well. We think these people are likely to already have certain level of influence, as opposed to a single individual who randomly come and say that, oh, I'm going to capture all these victims, these criminals, I'm going to kill them, because this individual know that he or she is vulnerable and weak without the help of weapon, etc. It is unlikely for individuals out of the general public to take up the responsibility to even do that. So what about these people, right? We think these people are likely to be people with vested interests. In the most ideal scenario, yes, we could have a feminist group going out to kill rapists, disregarding the fact that whether or not it is a proportionate punishment. We have a group of females who go and kill rapists. But what's more likely to happen is that this group of people are made up of powerful men, like they might have some kind of weapon, they might have resources, they might have money to have more people joining their particular group of vigilante justice in order for them to kill people that is against their vested interest. We think this is a lot more likely to happen under government's case, because like I've discussed, it's unlikely for this individual to be the one to actively come up. So we do feel that there is a high chance that this vigilante group could be someone with vested interest and want to kill off people just because this person invaded his or her interest. For example, it's likely for me to kill off my business partner because my business partner is not allowing me to earn money. I think all these reasonings are very easily to be neglected, even though they could have, they are supposed to submit some kind of reasoning through paper. I think all these reasonings are so easily to be manipulated in a way because of how they claim that they have independence in the process. No, thank you. What is the calculation of this individual as a citizen, right? I think if I'm the citizen, a lot of times I might be extremely afraid to be seen as a suspect, or I might be very afraid that I might be the one who get killed without any trial. I think it is very likely for me to want to vote against this policy just because I fear that I might be the victim from this vigilante justice group. I think this is more likely to be the calculation of a single individual citizen in that group. It is a process without trial, without odds, without evidence. It is subjected to the judgment fully, wholly on that group of vigilante justice. Furthermore, the unproportional punishment. So even if I might have done something wrong. For example, I might have killed a dog from my neighbor. My neighbor got very angry and kill me and say that, oh, because you do this to the animal, therefore I'm going to punish you in this way. I think there are unproportionate punishment. They are likely to happen day to day, as well as not surveyed by the society as well as the government. I understand under government's case that this system has already failed us, but we rather still have faith in a legal system that is eventually able to still change into the better, still able to process as the society become even more stable, as opposed to what coming out from their side, when if you step into this vigilante justice group, it is unlikely for you to withdraw from it, because this group of influential community members are likely to garner sufficient power in the process of them killing all these so-called criminals in a way for them to gain more power in the process. There are a lot of under the table discussion might likely to take place, especially under their side, when they allow such things to happen. On our side, we are not going to defend for the ideal world in which people are independent as well as logical in their rationale in their decision. We argue it is more likely that under their side, they allow for more crimes to happen in from a group of people with vested interests. So with that, I'm so proud to oppose. Thank you.
Member of government, whenever you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Start.
So from the opening house's speeches, we can see that they have not considered the feelings of individuals in the country as a whole. While the opening government talks about society as a whole and how vigilante groups can help, or how and the opening opposition says how the law should be changed and reinformed, and that the people should have more faith in the criminal justice system, they have not considered the feelings and sentiments of individuals and ever. Open government has resented the status quo and how the existing criminal justice system is biased against the crimes committed against the citizens of the region, but they have not given any mechanism of how they're going to achieve any change through the implementation of said motion. And after addressing rebuttals against OO, I will talk about the short-term benefits of implementing the voting of political parties and how best and worst case scenarios of said implementation is better than the solution provided by the opening opposition. It is important to note that the complete failure of law in the region will lead to main distrust in the existing government due to lack of oversight, police, and other national institutions that have the responsibility to sustain the region. Firstly, let me rebut some arguments about OO. When they said that they try to tell the public to believe in the existing legal system, there is no existing legal system in this world. It is said that the law is completely failed and that there are rampant crimes all over the country. From a personal level, their lives are turned upside down by wanton crime. Many families and households are shell-shocked by the implosion of the entire justice system and the government and the police force. They are feeling a sense of disgust, anger, and fury towards how people can go away scot-free with doing heinous crimes. For example, for a person who is raped or extorted, there is no rational thinking about having any more faith in the OO said existing legal system. The majority of the country wants to see justice served. And it is crucial to clarify that the law and resulting justice system is a backbone of society. While it oversees the rights, wrongs, and resulting consequences, the lack of duty to preserve freedom and moral agencies has led to the mischaracterization of OO, of the status quo, and talked about how vigilante justice is for an eye for an eye, how killing people actively can lead to justice served, which are completely irrelevant. And even though the results are short-term, they are a form of direct justice served for the victims and relatives. So I'll talk about the best and worst case scenarios of having implemented the vigilante justice system. So even if it has no effect, and even if political parties are not voted who can support the vigilante justice system, at least the voters of the citizens are sending a message to the said existing government, even if it is there, that the CJS is problematic to the extent that we prefer them to have order immediately, rather than having a long-term development of a criminal justice system in which countless more crimes such as rape, murder, and extortion are committed before there is even the formation of a possible reformed legal justice system. And in the best case, having vigilante justice systems will actually help actively provide justice and a sense of confidence to the citizens of the country. On a short-term basis, having vigilante justice systems which are localized in certain regions can start with small changes and small retributions, leading to accomplishable goals that imbue more confidence in the people. And also, with the media attention caused by these vigilante groups in the pursuit of these delinquents, it can also act as a deterrent for future delinquents, because they know that they will be targeted by the vigilante groups and that they know they're backed by the public and even voted political parties in their region, and thus will have a protection of individual citizens against harm. Vigilante groups can also enact retribution on the go without having a tedious police investigation and legal trials when there are already implicit knowledge of offenders. Yes, I'll take your point.
Taken.
So your solution towards a lot of social injustice and a lot of social unrest is to have a lot more people running around on the street claiming to solve justice by their own hands. Is that your idea of how peace and order could be maintained?
No, not at all. We don't have to defend the vigilante justice system because we already have political parties supporting them. And because we put our confidence in the vigilante justice system because they are voted. And somehow in a magical situation where there is a completely failed legal system and government, but there is also another situation in which we can vote for political parties that support these criminal justice system, because we should get these groups to immediately solve problems that are affecting our daily lives. There, in the perspectives of victims, there is no sense of waiting or patience or anything else. We just need to get these daily problems out of our lives because crimes are affecting families throughout the country. And because as vigilante groups are the closest form of a formalized local organization that can actually directly help citizens who are in need of revenge and retribution, they can help us the most. Because of a lack of trust in the government and national institutions that are supposed to help us, media attention on these vigilante groups are greatly more effective than patiently waiting for the reformation of said reformed justice system. Because there is no existing justice system. There is no existing government. There's rampant police brutality, government corruption, judges being corrupt, and bribing of high-ranking government officials. Because the duty of the law, which is to preserve freedom and moral agency, is completely destroyed. There is no other option but to solve these problems now. And I reinstate that although these are short-term benefits, short-term changes, they are justice served no matter what. And that we think that justice should not wait for a long-term change in which there will be countless more crimes. And thus I am very, very proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
All right. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
All right.
Start.
I think what's missing in this debate is the severity of vigilantism itself, right? And the severity of you supporting a political party who has the idea of even supporting violence in the first place, right? Side government fails to acknowledge that the very fact that you support this kind of political parties means that you allow more violence and more rogue to happen in the society, right? But before I move on to my substance, let's just take CG out of the debate, right? So CG told us that they worry about the sentiments of people. Look, when you worry about the sentiments of people, you should be worrying about the sentiments of people towards the poor people, towards the marginalized people who will be more further detriment by this vigilantism justice, right? Now, this is because your marginalized people and poor people are the very people who are being stereotyped and are being stigmatized as people who are likely to do crime, right? Even if they're innocent, these are the very people who will be first attacked when you support vigilantism, right? Now, they also need to prove to us Why is it justified for vigilantism to take place when there are other options to change the criminal legal justice system? What side government has failed to understand into this debate is that there are other forms of alternative that you are able to change and to change the criminal legal justice system, and they are willing to go with political parties that supports vigilantism justice. Right? We said that there will. We said there are more. We said that there are other political parties that will also put if it is an important and also crucial thing in the society. There will be also other political parties which will upheld this problem and also pushes for this problem to be solved. But we think that by vigilantism justice is just not the way that it is, because it is a problem solution mismatch. Right now, we also talked about how these votes will suddenly put pressure to change the criminal justice system. Look, it's not mutually exclusive. It is not mutually exclusive, right? The reason being is because if you can't change this government or criminal legal justice system by votes, it means that on the outside you can also change the legal justice system by votes. So hence, no substantial difference, right? But let's just take down OG next, right? So what is OG said in today's work? So OG state to us that when the state fails you, you cannot choose another state to help the marginalized. So this is a very same problem that CG has in today's bit. They don't understand that because of the hatred of community and for example, in a demographic where African American is a minority, especially with the more inclined stigmatization, that these African Americans are more likely to do crimes, that they are very much be more affected by this vigilantism justice. And they also state to us that how state monopolizes justice. Look, this is not true. Even if so, you can vote a state out, right? And you can pressure state to amend law just by not voting for a political party that supports vigilantism. But even if so, right, let's just engage with their premise where they want to support vigilantism justice. Would you prefer a world where people can go rogue and gung-ho without the proper arbitrary power to tell you what extent is vigilantism is, rather than having an organic change of law that can happen at the end of the day, right? Now, they need to, right. And they also talk to you about how, they also mentioned about how supporting vigilantism means you support radical action. I think this is very much not contingent to the bit, right? Right. So let's just move on to my substantive. So what does closing opposition will bring into this debate? First of all, is the harms of vigilantism, which OO did not bring into this debate, and the extent of harm that will be implemented towards people on the ground. Right. First, the harm is that if you support vigilantism, it means that you allow a floodgate of cases and a precedent that vigilantism is allowed. You will allow further violence to happen because of the fact that CG and OG did not tell us, did not walk us through the process on how this will happen. Hence, we are allowed to presume that there will be a floodgate of cases, right? So it also means you're granting power and influence to be legitimized to overly punish people. This means that if this political party wins and is in power and forces its justice, it will further detriment the society. How so? Right, so people will get the chance to now use petty excuses or abuse this vigilante justice to their own accord. Right? The government needs to prove how exactly they are going to mitigate this problem of people blindly using vigilantism to get away with murdering people and cause grievous hurt. Especially in a country where the law has failed you, you do not want to create situations where just about anybody is able to take actions into their own hands. Because notice that supporting political parties that supports vigilantism equals to you supporting more violence, right? You cannot fight crime with more crimes. It just does not make sense. With that, never about to oppose.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
I've exhausted my strength. Kaya, last speech, please.
Start.
Okay, so when closing the opposition comes out and talks about it, don't care about the sentiments of people, we say that they have already lost the debate. Right? This debate is an actor motion. We say that we only care about the interests of the citizens where the law has personally failed them. Right? We are talking about personal injustice, for example, when they are personally being raped. Right? We think that all closing opposition's points have failed in this aspect. Right? So let's look at what they have provided. Right? Firstly, they told you it's a problem-solution mismatch. Right? We think that they have completely ignored our analysis on how their systematic bias on these oppressed people, when there are decades of bias, or when the entire judiciary or criminal justice system is biased against the government, against rich people, right? We say that this is the most direct way for people to gain justice, right? Jason has already told you how we will actually promote actual justice, and even the worst case convey a very strong message, which we see closing option as completely not engaged upon, right? And they have not given any practical solutions to this, except correcting laws, right? Which we have told you how it is not possible.
Point.
Completely biased, right? No, thank you. And then their second point on how it will propagate more violence. We think that firstly, vigilantes does not randomly kill people, right? We think that they are not completely irrational actors. And secondly, we again tell you that when people are being personally harmed, what they care about most is the short-term justice. Whether, for example, the rapist gets actually retribution and justice. There's no alternative they are produced.
Point.
Right? Yes.
Taken. Right. So you need to clarify to us why vigilantism does not equal, why vigilantism will not just create more violence when you can have also civil disobedience, which do not lead to you murdering people, because the extent of vigilantism is you murdering actual people.
Okay, so again, we think that closing option has failed to engage on our entire emotion. Or this only cares about the actor of a citizen, right? We think that they seek personal justice, and we say that these we don't think that the vigilante justice will randomly go killing innocent people, given that they need popular support to continue their actions, right? So moving on to opening option, why they lose, right? They have given you a few main points. Firstly, on correcting the law, which I've already rebutted, due to systematic bias, it won't work. Right? Secondly, on how it'll lead to people more murders. Again, we think that they misunderstand the stakeholders. And when you are personally assaulted, I think the thing you care about the most is personal justice and retribution. The thirdly, they talk about how to harm yourself. We think it's a weird point for them to bring out, right? We say that these stakeholders are being harmed even more when you don't stand up to these rapists, when you don't stand up to a failed judiciary system, right? As Jason's already clearly told
Point.
you, no, thank you. And their best case is our best case if they get into a political position, they can actually promote actual reform. And we tell you that rather than just sitting there waiting for to be harmed again. Right? And even if this doesn't work, we say that it already conveys a very strong message to the government that this law has completely failed. The criminal justice system is unfair, and we say that this will lead to actual justice as well, right? Okay, so moving on to why we're different from opening government and why we win over them, right? We think that the main contribution of opening government is a lot of status quo on how there's systematic bias. We think there's little logical links towards the interests of these individuals, towards the main actor of this debate, which is the actor we only care about, right? We think that they have not given us any sort of concrete impacts about what will really happen. They have lacked links to actual impacts. While on closing government, we are the only house that clearly tells you what will actually happen, how it will actually achieve all the aims that we want to achieve, how achieve the principles of the criminal justice system when we actually promote justice for these people, right? And moving on to the comparison of both worlds, right? At government, we think that we support a world where these people actually have a chance, and then we are actually deterring these injustices from happening, and we're giving them suitable retribution, right? We have told you how in all cases we are able to promote a better way when compared to counterfactual, when you're basically wasting your vote on other parties, right? We see that the word the opposition has to defend on is that there's no change in the status quo. When the law has completely failed, you absolutely cannot do anything to actually change the status quo, right? Even if we give their best case where these vigilantes are completely irrational, which I've proven to you that is not. We think that the sole actor, which is the individual, would want to seek individual justice, and we think this is the only. We think that they do not care that much about social order, and we think that this is why we take this debate, right? So on closing government, what we have proved to you, right? Firstly, how it will help seek personal justice to the most important stakeholder in the debate, how it fulfill the justice system. And secondly, we have given you a very clear analysis on how we're going to achieve actual impacts on all cases. So therefore, very proud to propose.
Hello, am I audible? Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Curious. I'll make this brief.
Start.
Panel, if you notice from both benches of government's house, I think a lot of them are being uncharitable towards opposition because a lot of the times they argue to you that more often than not, governments will always fail when it comes to correcting the law, but somehow governments will not fail in implementing a vigilante justice system where it will not go out of control, where it will not go out of hand, where everything is just going to be peachy, and that means they are able to achieve a lot of social justice that they wanted to achieve at the end of the day. I think this is one that is very uncharitable for governments. I think it's also fair for us to assume that governments have the capacity to actually uphold the law in a way where the law will not fail you anymore, and it will at the end of the day be beneficial for a lot of people on the ground. Let's move on to opening up closing government on what they say in their arguments, right? Firstly, member of government wants to argue to you that the only way for you to actually help the individuals on the ground is by catering towards the emotions of these people on the ground. That means it looks like things you
Point.
allow these people who have been harmed, who have been hurt, no thank you, to actually take justice into their own hands. That means what you're doing right now is not trying to solve any issue, because literally in what Gov Whip said is that you are now able to do whatever that you want because you deem that you are wrong. That means you are
Point.
allowed to follow your emotions. That means
Point.
you are allowed to argue, to commit all this vigilante justice that you want at the end of the day, because apparently to them they wanted to cater towards the emotions of these justice, these victims. They wanted to cater towards the feeling of these victims at the end of the day. Here's why Aishah's point is really important in this debate, because Aishah clarified to you in this debate that when it comes to emotions, it's one that we shouldn't cater to at the end of the day, because when it comes to emotions, when you allow people to act solely based on the emotions of them having to be robbed of their justice, I think this is where they might have
Point.
will have a tendency to be or to go overboard to the point where things that Aisha has concern of, like killing people, can happen at the end of the day. In a world where you allow this, you don't have a deterrence that they wanted to claim. Because let me tell you the problem with argument coming from closing government, right? Number one, the problem with you allowing all this vigilante justice system is that, yeah, sure, immediate justice comes at the cost of a lot of social unrest. That means when it comes to a world where you don't have law and order, that means a lot of people are now running
Point.
around claiming that they are trying to uphold the justice that they were obstructed from. I think this is where it's very detrimental towards the case, because a lot of the times you don't have a mechanism to make sure that these people will eventually stop doing what they're doing, and then suddenly vote for a government that will now solve the law for you, because that's what CG wanted to claim, which is now after you've done all this retribution, you can vote in for a government that will uphold the law for you.
Point.
Let me tell you something. If you already have a taste for all this lawless state, the non-existence of law, I don't think you will go back and revert back to a world where you believe that the law has failed you and you do nothing about it, you forsake the law. I don't think you get your benefits at the end of the day. Let's talk
Point.
about how closing opening government don't get any parts in today's debate as well. Let's talk about the arguments coming from opening government. I think a lot of arguments coming from opening government were just to show to you why is it that vigilante justice system is a very functional solution, and why is it that it's always beneficial to them. I think there's a few problems with why is it that all this is not controllable, because
Point.
number one, the mechanism coming from opening government is that you only have to do this in extreme cases or extreme instances. That means you don't solve any crimes or issues, because you still have to wait
Point.
for you to be able to be put into a waiting list, because apparently in opening government they claim to you that the government will look at your cases little by little and then determine whether
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are allowed to go into the criminal justice system or into the vigilante system, where you are allowed to be a vigilante at the end of the day. The same thing happens on our side. The only difference is that we don't allow these people to take justices into their own hands, because at the end of the day we still believe that the law has a reason to be
Point.
upholded. There's a reason why the law should not be forsaken, and I think both opening government and closing government are trying to forsaking the law, and I think this is why their arguments don't stand, because a lot of the times the outcomes that they wanted to achieve will not be achievable, because you're not only going to create a state of a civil unrest, you're also going to come with a bad attention or bad media that states this country specifically allows people to kill on the streets without even realizing the impacts or the harms that they're doing. Yeah, sure, you solve all this civil of all these emotions that they've pent up for so long, but you don't change anything you make more civil unrest worse on your side of the house. How are we different than opening opposition? I think on our speech, we characterized to you how is it that all this vigilante system is one that is very harmful. We told you why is it that because of all this reasons why people might go overboard, instead of just saying that they will go overboard. I think this is why we take the debate on this issue, because we actually clarified to you why is it that people will most likely be going overboard because of all this vigilante justice that they have in mind, pent up in their souls, for instance. This is why the reason why they would go overboard. And I think that's why we take the debate in today's final round. So thank you. I would like to oppose.
Here, here.